painting trees, but then not just staying there, we're gonna adding a next step, which is glazing or adding depth to your painting, or in this case, a forest. So we've done basic trees before. You're used to kind of adding that highlight side and then the shadow side. For this, at this stage, we're not gonna be doing the two different tones on these trees, okay? They're just gonna be one flat tone. This is just a brown that I'm going in here with flat tone. I've made sure my brush is nice and moist for the use so that it can do a nice even stroke here. And I'm just doing a variety of different sizes of trees, adding in some branches. This is gonna be the very background trees. Right now it looks super, right in front of your face, but we're gonna be pushing it to the background with the art of glazing. I use this so much in my art, and I use it for trees, I use it for mountains, all kind of stuff. So as we learn this, think of how many different ways that you could apply these skills. All right, so nice and random, nothing has to be perfect here. We're just getting those base trees in. And then I'm just gonna jump to my art sponge. I get it nice and wet, and I'm just using a plain green to dab in my leaves, or I should say leaves. And again, random, just little dotting going around. Press harder for a more defined look, and then light little airy will just be for more of towards the canopy of these trees, because you'll just see some more natural leaves on the top of the trees. All right, so kind of assorted areas with that. And it's so important, you guys, make sure this layer is so dry. Spend a little time. Sometimes when you're doing trees, there's more paint there than you think. Don't just go by it looks dry. Actually use a blow dryer, or just wait a decent amount of time so that this layer is super dry. And then now I'm going to start preparing my glaze. So I'm just watering down with a mister my white paint. And you can see here it's very runny and watery. And you can see it as I apply here. I'm just going a broad stroke with a flat brush all the way across my trees. And you can tell how watered down it is, but you can also see immediately there's a haze that you're adding, a haze effect to these background trees. It's being pushed farther away from your view versus where it was just a second ago. And I wouldn't usually necessarily do this, but I'm going to take some yellow paint and create a glaze just to show you what you're doing here. The trees are still there, but you're adding that thin coat over the top here. And the yellow just makes it so obvious of kind of being more visual for you to be able to see what you're really doing here. And the cool thing about glazing is that you don't have to, if you don't like where the glaze ended up, if you don't want to do a whole matte layer on your glaze, you can take a clean brush and remove part of it if you want while it's still wet. So say you want to just pull something back towards the eye. For this one, I'm actually kind of adding a detail of the sun in there. So there are tons of things you can do with this. Okay, now I'm going in with my foreground trees, back with my same brown, and I'm using a bigger brush this time because things that are closer to you appear bigger. So I'm just gonna, it was hard for me to get to the very bottom with this little easel, so I had to kind of do that at the end. But I'm just adding in my trees randomly, try not to cover up the trees behind, try to kind of, you can overlap and kind of guide to the side so you can still see your background trees and that detail that's being added. And immediately you can just tell there's so much depth here. You're looking into a forest. There's depth here that is being created, and that is such a cool element that really adds some realism to your work. And I'm just going to add some branches throughout. All right, try this exercise at home. Don't overthink the glaze. Just kind of play around with how much paint you have in there, and just have fun. Have fun with this, because I think it's so magical how immediately it pushes something back, and as you add that foreground, you've got just a really cool dynamic there. Okay, have fun, and I will see you at the next video.